morning and welcome to Deadline Press Agency's run-through of the top stories in the Scottish newspapers today on Wednesday, November the 18th. I'm Oliver Farrimond.
And I'm Rory Reynolds. Let's start with the Scottish Sun.
On the front page of the Scottish Sun today, 19 children involved in a drug swoop at the ridiculously exclusive Fettes College. The £23,000 a year school has seen 4 kids expelled for using cannabis.
Fettes, of course, where former Prime Minister Tony Blair studied. It's also right next to Lothian Borders Police Headquarters.
And on page 9, ongoing coverage of a murder trial at the High Court in Livingston. This story is by Deadline senior court reporter Paul Thornton. And a teenager revealed that she was leaving her boyfriend just hours before he allegedly set her on fire and she died.
That's right. The jury have been shown a virtual tour of the house, and this is one of the first times that technology like this has been used.
The story is going to be ongoing for the rest of the week and possibly more, I imagine. On page 18 of The Sun, a blossoming romance in the corridors of power. David Miliband and Hillary Clinton. This is hilarious. Hillary Clinton described our 44-year-old foreign secretary as vibrant, attractive and smart. And the gushing Mr. Miliband responded saying that she was delightful and a tease. And I just can't believe that they're talking about each other in these terms.
Predictably, both of the senior government figures already have celebrity nicknames, and The Sun are calling this Hilly Loves Millie.
A new line on the Queen's speech from the Scottish Daily Mail today. It's been reported previously that in the Queen's speech, Gordon Brown's going to outline new powers for Holyrood, more tax-raising powers. And the line the Daily Mail have gone with here on their front page is a new tartan tax threat. And because Scottish MPs will be able to vote and legislate on higher taxes, they've said that's a worry and it could happen.
The Scottish Parliament already has... it's well known that the Scottish Parliament already has tax-raising powers of 3% increase or decrease, although it's never used them yet.
A story that's had a showing in all of the UK nationals today. A grandad strangled his wife in his sleep because he thought mistakenly that she was a burglar. She wasn't. This is a condition he suffered from and took medication for, was off the medication at the time of their holiday, and they've been married for 39 years. It's dreadfully sad.
The prosecution here are not pushing for murder, but saying that Mr. Thomas has insane automatism. This is where involuntary actions are carried out, but his defence are expected to argue this was a case of non-insane automatism, which would mean that he would not have to be sent to a secure mental institution.
One of a few stories today on the future of Scotland and what it would mean as a political entity as its powers are increased. On the front page of the Telegraph as well as the Daily Mail, the Scottish tax system after independence could cost businesses £1 billion. The red tape of becoming a separate entity to the UK could be hugely damaging for Scotland's private sector. Presumably all these stories are in the papers today to coincide with the Queen's speech, where, as I mentioned before, Gordon Brown will outline new powers for Holyrood. But also worth noting that the SNP at the moment not hugely well supported among businesses. I believe the top 30 businesses in Scotland do not favour independence, probably for precisely these reasons.
Continuing on that theme, a former senior member of the Scottish Nationalist Party, Jim Sillars, has clashed with the Nationalists over a number of issues, and the Scotsmen have outlined them on page 8. The SNP say an independent Scotland should be taken out of NATO, but Sillars says this is worth hanging on to. Again, with Trident, Sillars said it's not realistic to shift the nuclear base from Scotland against the SNP, so a lot of contention over those points. An interesting story on page 14 of the Scotsman today. The crackdown on gang youth focuses too much on Glasgow. That's according to Dr. Ross Duca from the University of Strathclyde. And turning to page 16, STV has launched legal action against the ITV network, and they're seeking £12 million.
It's a slightly complicated case, it seems. I'm just going to read out the second paragraph and hopefully that'll make it clear. The Scottish broadcaster STV claims it could be owed up to £12 million after ITV signed deals with people like Virgin Media without obtaining the consent of the licence holders, who were STV Central and STV North. There's been an ongoing battle between STV and ITV for a while now, and this is actually a separate lawsuit to one where ITV took legal action against STV worth £38 million. STV retaliated with counter-sue of £35 million. So these two really at loggerheads now.
A classic Express story here. I want my son to be flogged. The mother and father of a boy who stole from his grandmother said that he should be publicly flogged. And several of the papers running this today, they've also noted that his father, Ian, has said they don't want to see him unless it's on the pages of the obituaries.
This falls nicely in line with the Daily Express's own editorial line on punishments, i.e. that they should be very severe all the time.
Looking at the Daily Star today on page 6, and Brits watch an average of 27 hours of festive television over Christmas. But this is also noted that some people watch 72 hours between just Christmas and New Year. And they've noted here that's 8% of the entire population sitting in front of the box for 3 whole days. Quite alarming figures considering the tripe that dominates the festive television. Scotland's recession is far deeper than the rest of the UK. That's on the front page of the Herald, according to a Strathclyde University think tank. The severe drop in the output of the financial sector, this is obviously linked to RBS, is affecting Scotland heavily at this point.
The think tank also warned that this is the worst economic crisis for Scotland in 60 years.
Looking at page 4 of the Record, a slightly different twist on the Salmond-Sillars argument. Alex Salmond is kidding himself if he thinks he runs Scotland. That's what Jim Sillars has said. He is bound hand and foot by Westminster. I've also noted here the opposition between Trident, NATO, the EU and Scotland's currency. And finally on page 24, Glasgow couples are the quickest to conceive in the UK. At just 6 weeks average, women fall pregnant, and this is quicker than many of the cities listed here. They've noted that Edinburgh is one of the longest, with 31 weeks average to conceive for a child.
The researchers were approached for a scientific explanation as to why women in Glasgow conceive quite so quickly, but they had no scientific response, but they said it might be down to the water. They also said that taking lots of folic might help, and they also noted that having sex in several positions might be another explanation.
Scientists here are not noting the role that Buckfast played in Glasgow pregnancies.
It's Wednesday, November 18th. Thank you very much for listening to our roundup of what's in the papers.